Hello cave dwellers, this is Dan C here again, and this time I'm here to show you my W game, which is Wolfenstein 3D. I think I first played this game around 1997. I would have been around 12 years old. I came across the shareware version, probably stuffed on a CD full of shareware games. My parents had just recently bought a second-hand 486, and up to that point I'd done all of my gaming on a Commodore 64 or at my friend's house on his Amiga. Of course I knew 3D games like this existed, but it still blew my socks off to be able to run around in a 3D space at blistering speeds shooting Nazis in my own home. The same PC was perfectly capable of running Doom at a good speed, so you can imagine what I thought when I got a shareware copy of Doom a few months later. I don't have a physical copy of this game, I never have, so you'll have to make do with this gameplay footage. Back in the day I was perfectly satisfied with the shareware version for many years, although I did buy the full game in digital form when it was released on GOG later. Wolfenstein is often thought of as the first FPS game, but I won't bore you with the well-trodden details of why it isn't. Instead I want to talk about a different perspective that I hope you'll find interesting. Wolfenstein 3D is a first-person dungeon crawler. Wolfenstein 3D undoubtedly popularised the archetype that first-person shooters relied on for the next 5 or 10 years, but if you trace back its design decisions through earlier games, I think it owes a lot to early first-person RPGs, such as the SSI Gold Box and Wizardry series. Consider the dank stone-walled dungeons, the sprawling grid-based maps with their walls all at 90-degree angles, the keys and locked doors to force backtracking, and the secret doorways and implausible amounts of loot to encourage exploration. If you take Ultima and boil it down to its barest, most essential components, get rid of most of the complicated inventory, equipment, and character stats, and make it into an action game, then you end up with Zelda. If you do the same thing with Wizardry, then you end up with something that looks a lot like Wolfenstein 3D. Actually, perhaps you end up with Catacomb 3D, which is an earlier FPS with a dark fantasy setting that was also made by id Software. Which brings us back round to Wolfenstein 3D not being the first, which I said I wouldn't mention. Oh well, Catacomb 3D isn't the first either. Back to Neil in the studio.